to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to our Song of Ice and Fire podcast. This is Follow Up Friday, where we answer all of your ravens from the previous episode. And we're trickling in some Facebook group comments, I think, as well, too. So we've got a nice discussion going on in the Facebook group, so we're bringing those to the show.
Yeah. Trivia last week. The question was, in what year was Tyrion Lannister born? The answer is 273 AC, and it was won by Sir Robbie of Newcastle, who has been away for a while. And just literally, I had like 4 or 5 people answer within seconds of minutes of each other. But he literally was first once again. So he is back. So
he's back. Wow. That is awesome. What time did we post that episode? Was that early again?
No, same. That was regular time.
Regular time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Alrighty, awesome. You still thinking about your different format for Follow Up Friday? Still brewing?
I'm still brooding. You know, like Makar at Summer Hall, just brooding.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. I like it. Okay. I wanted to. So I think this week we have some quick ravens that just quick comments on the show that we're going to bring up and things. But I was thinking I think this was not this previous Monday, but the following or the Monday prior to that, we had a discussion about the wildlings, Sir Matt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was a character that I kind of just in my reread again, and we're always combing back through. I like to even start a couple chapters before the chapter we're going to hit, read that chapter again, lead into it, just kind of get the flow going again, right?
Right.
So it's amazing how many times that you and I actually reread the chapters. It's nuts. But I love it. That's why we're doing this, because we're obsessed, you know. But I was looking in the World of Ice and Fire, and we have up at Hardhome, there was this devastation that took place. Okay,
right.
It's destroyed. I think at one point, by fire, they say, and a character, Meister Willis, was there. And Meister Willis is this sort of kind of he's eluded me. He's a bit of a mystery, right? He's actually the one who is detailing the accounts he's detailing the wildlings, Hardhome itself. I think he wrote something called Hardhome, an account of 3 years spent beyond the wall among savages, raiders, and woods witches. So he actually ends up kind of vanishing, and we get in a World of Ice and Fire, just a tidbit here, which I'll read. Willis journeyed to Hardhome on a Pantashi trader and established himself as a healer and a counselor so that he might right their customs. He was given protection by Gorm the Wolf, a chieftain who shared control of Hardhome with 3 other chiefs. When Gorm was murdered in a drunken brawl, however, Willis found himself in mortal danger and made his way back to Old Town. There he set down his account, only to vanish the year after the illuminations were done. It was said in the Citadel that he was last seen at the docks, looking for a ship that would take him to Eastwatch by the sea. So,
okay.
Yeah, so he's headed back to Eastwatch, which then again he could maybe go over to Skagos, or he could even leave Eastwatch and head back up to Hardhome. And I just noticed that, you know, as I was reading there's this the destruction of it. Like, what happened? Why was there so much fire there? You know, what do we believe happened? Is it? There's a lot of different theories that people have on Reddit and A Song of Ice and Fire wiki, that it could have been volcano eruptions up there that had caused many of the wildlings
right.
there to die, almost like a Pompeii type of thing. Let's see, dragons, again, this was 600 years ago, by the way. So this is 600 years before where we're at. So just an interesting time, right? It was that time that you and I were talking about where, like, it's before Aegon's conquest, but yet, so 300 years before the conquest. So 100 years, actually, 100 years before Valyrian Freehold annexed or, kicked out, I guess, the Targaryens, or that
Right.
they left. They had that foresight to kind of leave. So dragons is still possibly an option as to something that took place up there. But during that time, you have the Night's Watch. And something happened at Hardhome. Meister Willis has documented some of it, and he's intrigued to go back. And some people believe actually the Citadel might have sent him with the task, which that he might be a part of the reason why it was consumed by fire. So it's actually kind of it's the only Hardhome's the only real like city/town up there in north beyond the wall, and I guess close to resembling a city, and it's often ruled by several different chieftains. And so when he was there, he's learning about this stuff, and then his guy is killed, his chieftain who's protecting him, and then it seems like there's this massive destruction, that this mysterious sort of fires consumed Hardhome, and they don't really know what they were. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as something interesting, another nugget for folks to kind of go look into, and look into World of Ice and Fire. Keep kind of plugging that book because it has so much cool information, and when you start to detail some of the timelines, you realize that like this, when it said 600 years ago, and you have to think about when the book was written, you're like, well, that's 600 years. That's 300 years before the conquest, and sort of like that Night's Watch, what's going on at that time? It's in decline, but are they still fighting the others? Is that something that's still taking place? Are they using fire to fight them? Is it just a battle against the wildlings? So because 300 years is quite a time, before the conquest. So.
Absolutely.
So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. It was something that we kind of, it was there in the reading, and when I went back through, I was like, who is this Meister Willis guy? He vanishes off the docks there and heads back to Eastwatch, and no one's quite sure as to what happened to him, So I don't know. Thought that was kind of interesting. So I just wanted to share with all of you. So that is Sir Ezra's just sort of ponderings for the past week. So
yeah.
All right.
And hopefully, that's something that I would love to get more information on at some point, is kind of, like these smaller keeps up at the wall, like Eastwatch and Greyguard and some of these things, because there's clearly a history there. We just don't know any of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It would be neat to learn more. I think when you think of the Night's Watch in that order, it is. I always forget that it's not something that they started during Aegon's conquest. It's an ancient order that it's been there for thousands of years. So just something to kind of remember. It's why it's so cool. It's why they have their vows, and they say their vows, and we are obsessed with the idea that this order would stand on the wall and watch what was coming. So, and that was Gur's thing too. He was obsessed with that. Is it Hadrian's Wall? Is that what it's called?
Hadrian's Wall. It was the end of the end of the Roman Empire.
Right. The idea that you'd have watchmen on that wall, and when he was just struck with that idea that when he was standing there, to just be looking out and protecting everything behind you. You know what I mean? That was sort of like you were on the edge of the world essentially as you knew it, which is cool. I think profound to him. So. Anyways, all right, yeah. So there we go, guys. Just a little tidbit to start Follow-Up Friday off with. I do have a couple quick other Ravens. We got something here from Sir Alex, the Forgetful, who has changed his name just as he's taken the black. So we'll get into that later. But this isn't necessarily a Raven, but just a message about how enjoyable the podcast is so far. A man loves the off-topic discussion on sports. So he kind of just brought up, he's kind of working his way back through. And I've told people, too, if you're new and you're listening, maybe you've listened to this first episode and you're like, oh, cool, I want to go back and listen to the beginning and try to catch up. That's totally fine. We're still here. And when you send us your Ravens, even though they may, you may be behind in the podcast, Sir Matt and I will read those. And when you catch up, they'll be there waiting for you. So those responses. But yeah, he just kind of goes on to talk about his favorite sports teams there. Because we were talking about that back in the day, and he mentions, the Sixers for basketball, Bayern Munich for soccer, the Germany national team. He's just kind of going on listing more here. The Eagles. He's really, I think, in love with those two cities, like Philadelphia, is where he's from. So pretty neat. And then another comment I didn't put in here, Sir Matt, is that I basically should be sent to the wall because I haven't seen Breaking Bad. So,
hey, well, I haven't really seen much of it either. So,
well, we're both going to the wall then, I guess. So, there's a lot of shows I haven't seen that I definitely need to get caught up on. But I'm just reading all the time, so
for sure. Hey, yeah, we're busy. We're busy doing other stuff. It takes me a while to kind of plow through some bigger series.
Yeah. So it's just a couple quick Ravens there. So, all right, we're ready to dive into these bigger Ravens here. Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is A Man Has No Name, formerly Sir Alex the Forgetful. He says, "Good morning, Sir Ezra the Watchful and Sir Matt the Bud Knight. A man's name was once Sir Alex the Forgetful, the kingdom of Philadelphia, but now a man is no one." Which is just fantastic to me. We're starting to get a handful of these. We are. We're getting a couple assassins, which I like. A man is currently still catching up on the podcast, so some of this may have been discussed. But once the two of you, at one point, we had predicted how Jon Snow may react to discovering he is a Targaryen. But how do you think Daenerys would react? So basically, how is Dany going to react to Jon discovering that he is a Targaryen? For the majority of the story, she believes that she is the last surviving Targaryen and the true heir to the throne. How would she react to finding out she isn't the true heir? Would this bring her closer to Jon, or would this push her away? Or would she put that on the side as they fight the Night King? Also, how would young Griff react, assuming Jon Snow is Aegon in the books, and Griff is truly is the other Aegon? So let's take the first question first there, Sir Matt. Just sort of like Dany, how is she going to react to Jon Snow, learning that he is a Targaryen, if that is what comes to be?
It depends on. I think it just depends on what ends up happening. So like in the show, I think it'll be kind of more of like a happy thing, because we know like Dany and Jon have already kind of hooked up on the boat, and so I think that I don't think she's going to be like threatened by him wanting to take like the Iron Throne, because Jon doesn't really seem that he cares. Like I don't think Jon really wants it. So, and he's already kind of bent the knee to her, right? Like in the show.
Mm-hmm.
In the show. Now the book's totally different, because if it does go that same way, maybe they don't like hook up, or maybe it just plays out differently. So it could be more of a kind of hostile thing. And in the books, the precedent has been set right with the Great Council, where women aren't allowed to rule. So that I think could be something that goes into play as well.
Right. Yeah. I also. I don't know that she's going to. I don't know. I think she loves him too, and then it's sort of like, to me, it seems like it might be based upon just the show, this icing on the cake that like, wait, what? That he is. It's definitely going to be awkward, especially if he is like the true heir. They're going to have a conversation about that. I don't really know how that's going to unfold. I could see her, kind of having that rage or whatever, because she really is like sort of the dragon, right? She is the true dragon. I mean, she's got that ability to sort of walk through fire, and she's, so as far as we can tell, she is like this true, Targaryen. So I just feel like whether it's young Griff or it's Jon Snow, they're going to come second to her, because she has the dragons, she's in control of them. So she might be, a little hard. I don't know. As you said, Jon's not going to, I think, want to take anything from her. So as long as his reaction and he stays the same way that he is, then I think she'll be okay. But if he starts to think that he should be king, and the true ruler, and then she his queen, versus like, he could still be king, but he's just like, she's in charge. It's just different, It just kind of depends on how they, on how, I think it all depends on how Jon, reacts to his own revelation that he's a Targaryen again, if that happens.
Yeah, If it goes that way. Now, young Griff might be like a different ball game.
And this is tricky. So now we go between like show and book here.
Yeah, 'cause
so
young Griff doesn't exist, and I don't think that you would have to really kind of rope that in, like last minute. That's just not happening in the show. But young Griff, assuming Jon Snow is Aegon in the books, young Griff truly is the other Aegon. So the young Griff angle is different. Like if it turns out that the theory where Jon isn't, let's say like Y plus, Jon is not Rhaegar and Lyanna's son,
and
it is young Griff, which is just a theory. That would be super cool. That would be quite interesting because young Griff clearly does have plans on conquering Westeros, and he could view it as more about marrying Daenerys to kind of conquer Westeros. And maybe Daenerys when she was younger would be okay with that, but now I think she would not accept that because Daenerys is really kind of become her own woman, and she is kind of also a force to be reckoned with. And so I think that is something where she would not go lightly, and she has dragons. So that's the other thing is it's going to be hard for like Griff to say to kind of if he tried to like force Daenerys into anything, just because he's that male line, because she has dragons, and if you're a Targaryen, Daenerys is clearly a Targaryen with dragons, and she has that much more. She has a line that is proven, whereas Griff is going to have to kind of prove that he was a secret kid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another thing that in the books, young Griff is trying to basically earn his aunt's respect. So he's when the decision making comes where he's trying to decide what to do in A Dance of Dragons, he's deciding what to do with the Golden Company, whether they should attack, whether they should go seize some of Westeros. He kind of does it so that he can prove to his aunt that he is worthy to sort of be her bride and to work with her side by side. So he's actually, he's already set up as that person who's trying to appease her and help pave the way for her. So when you think about it like that, I think that's interesting because that's we don't talk about that a whole lot, and that we often think young Griff is just coming and he is going to conquer and everyone's going to get behind him and he's the heir and all that kind of stuff, and that's true. But he's also trying to thread this needle here with his aunt, and that could be some of what Illyrio and Varys have coached him in. And that this is something you're going to have to navigate because they didn't quite know how Dany's path would go, and so now in prepping him, he's almost more prepared to rule because of his tutoring, whereas Dany was just sort of meant to sort of be a bride that would then help them obtain an army, and she has turned into the true dragon, and her brother is dead, and so then now when they shift to young Griff, I kind of think he was like they were going to possibly put Viserys in charge. I'm going down a big rabbit hole here, so I'm sorry. I'm totally deviating from the Raven a little bit.
That's fine. Hey, that's what we do. We chase cats,
We do. Now we're chasing.
Those cats aren't going to catch themselves.
No, and the cats led us to dragons, so I'm in here talking about dragons now. But it's like I truly kind of the more I've thought about what is young Griff's role in all of this, and we were just talking on Monday about what is Varys and what are they up to? What are those two up to? Because why is Varys sort of plotting or seemingly help, kill Daenerys? I don't know. Again, that was just their way to get an army. Viserys was going to they're going to push behind him. They were going to conquer, and then young Griff is someone who they trust and believe, and he can kind of come in. They could assassinate Viserys, and they could, put up either their own Targaryen or Blackfyre, whatever he may be. But when you read about him, when they're on the Shy Maid, and Tyrion is kind of figuring him out, he's very smart. He's very intelligent. He's been trained by Duck. His John Connington. He's well educated. He's intelligent, versed in history. Septa Lemore, I always forget her name. Taught him about the faith of the Seven. He speaks the common tongue. Yeah, Ashardane. Yeah. He is fluent in High Valyrian. Even in the bastard Valyrian dialects of Pentos, Tyrosh, Mir, and Lys. So that's kind of cool. Trade talk. So he knows a lot, and he's definitely someone who's been groomed to take this position. But I think in leaving, Connington and those guys are talking about Rhaegar's sister, because Connington was close to Rhaegar, and this is his sister who they didn't expect to do all this cool stuff and to, have 3 dragons and to be moving to conquer. So, his role I think is going to be different. But I also think what they did in the show is that they blended the two together. I don't, in the book, I think a lot of people believe Jon is not going to be a Targaryen, and that what they did here is they made Jon Snow be young Griff, kind of this, like they almost like merged them together. So, and I think when you do that, that's why they've been saying in panels that the show and book are going to be extremely different from each other, because they did that. They took this character and
it's possible. It's possible, and that's the thing, is that young Griff could still be the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna.
Yep.
And Jon can still be Ozora High. Like, those two things are not,
exactly.
like mutually exclusive. Like they can be they can be separate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I agree.
And maybe that's the bigger story. I think we all assume that Jon has to be, like Y
like
plus
rule.
Y. You're right. Like R plus L equals J. Like, has to be what the case for Jon to be Azora High, because that's, even still, that's probably still the most likely event, right, in the books. I mean, it's obviously probably what's going to happen in the show. I mean, I would say it's like 90%. I would say Jon is Azora High. Like, that's the whole route they're going in the show. But that's still the likely event in the books. But what's the bigger story? Is it Azora High, or is it, are you a Targaryen? I don't think that. I think Azora High is going to be the bigger plot device in the books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Well, and you think about the difference between Azora High and the princess, the prince or the princess that was promised, and if that
those could be different things.
Those could be different things, right? And so, Azora High being that prophecy from the Far East, in Ashai by the shadow there, that could be something that is, as you say, different, and that could be Jon, it could be someone else too, but yeah. So I like that. I like that idea. Let me get back to the Raven here, because totally deviated and kind of went nuts. Let me see. So, okay. So how would young Griff react, assuming Jon is Aegon in the books? Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Okay, so how would young Griff? So let's say Jon does turn out to be the other son. So that Jon would be the younger son to Rhaegar, because
right, which is also still possible.
Yeah, and exactly. So I think then young Griff would say, "Well, I'm the elder son, and my claim is stronger." And that's sort of when they go to the Golden Company. That is what he and Jon Connington go in wearing, the blacks and the reds of House Targaryen. And what's interesting about that, when they show up to the Golden Company, is that the Golden Company kind of already knows who he is.
Oh yeah, they know. Yeah.
Which is interesting. So there's more people involved in this than what the small little shy maid, voyage entails. I mean, I think Illyrio and those guys have already kind of organized this, and so the Golden Company is kind of like waiting. So once he shows up, cool, we're in. You got us, and let's move on. They agree to keep his identity a secret. But it's like, yeah, I think young Griff would say, cool, glad to have another Targaryen, family member, but like, fall in line, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how he would react. So, I like this other question here that we get from no one here. Finally, who do you guys think gets the final point of view chapter? Bran seems like an obvious choice to me. He got the first chapter, and if a man remembers correctly, he was the first to get a second chapter. So thoughts there? Who gets that final point of view chapter?
That's a really good question.
I think it's going to be a little different than Bran, just because you have the prologues and the epilogues. So I guess if you're just going with
right,
if you're just going with final point of view chapter, in the series and not including the epilogue, then yeah, it could be Bran for sure, 100%. But I think we're gonna have that epilogue with
with Sam.
Sam, yeah,
yeah. I'm totally on board with the Sam is telling us this story. Like he is writing it.
Yeah.
I 100% think that is what's happening.
I would be so happy if that
and
were the case.
I hope to God, and we'd have to go check out travel scheduling and stuff like that for Gurr, but I really hope that Gurr did do a cameo, and maybe they filmed it a while ago or something. Like you could film it at any time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it would just be the perfect way to end it, especially if the ending is kind of bittersweet. Where like it is that like somebody dies or something, you know what I mean? Like let's say like almost everyone dies in the process, and let's say Jon does have to kill Daenerys or something like that. Then you can still kind of have that thing where it's like Sam survives and Sam is telling us the story, and then it kind of, because at the end of the day, like you still want to have kind of somewhat of like a happy, not like happy ending, but just you would feel satisfied.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Well, and then also you like I always like stories where in which like there's nuggets left. I mean, even though he's not going to write anymore, I don't believe he'll ever write beyond the end of a Song of Ice and Fire series. We get the histories, which is cool, but leave it in a place where we can imagine, new houses rising, sort of like we were talking about the Tullys. Leave it in a place where another one of these small houses. Like the Seven Kingdoms looks very different. Maybe Starks are still in control, Lannisters, right. But in some of these other regions, like the Tyrells, that house probably is crumbling. If you look at the show, like who is going to take their place?
Well, in the show, it's gone. Like it doesn't exist.
Essentially, it's essentially gone. So, who will rise there? Who's going to rise in place of the Tullys if the Tullys don't recover? Enough. Jon Arryn's son, is he well enough to kind of continue on, or is there another house going to take over there? So if you left us with those nuggets to where we can kind of like think about different people being in control, because that seems to be what happens. Aegon's conquest, the as we said last week, the House Horror is out and House Tully is in. So when you have those major battles or major shifts, the makeup of the kingdoms changes. And so I think Sam hinting at some of that at the end of all of this, and Gurr getting that cameo at the end as Sam would be absolutely epic. But I do think Bran will get that last. That's a really good point. He'll get that last sort of point of view, and maybe can tell us with his powers, and with what he can see, he could maybe give us more, because it's hard to get a lot. We're limited. This is like a third person limited. We're limited to that character in that chapter and their what they can see. So Bran can see much further and much wider in dreams and in the Weirwood network. So it makes sense to choose him as that last point of view chapter, or even if he's second to last, and we sort of have like a nice little resolution, and then we have a couple more. I don't know. Maybe it'll be well into resolution by the time. Bran tells us what happens, and then we get a couple point of views just to settle things down, and then we get the epilogue. I don't know. It's good. It's fun to think about. It's years away.
Absolutely.
Away.
Yeah.
Maybe a decade away, which is crazy to think about.
All right. So. Okay. Now we have a pretty large one here from Ghost O'Harrenhal.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. This is Jon. A Dance with Dragons. Ghost wasn't sure of the chapter here, but we've got a quote that we'll read first, and then we also have Jon 11 right after that, and then we'll get into the Raven. So here we go. She gazed at Ghost. May I touch your wolf? The thoughts made Jon uneasy. Best not. He will not harm me. You call him Ghost, yes? Yes, but... Ghost, Melisandre made the word a song. The direwolf padded toward her. Wary, he stalked about her in a circle, sniffing. When she held out her hand, he smelled that too, then shoved his nose against her fingers. Jon sees fire from her fingertips later in this conversation. Jon let out a white breath. He is not always so Warm? Warmth calls to warmth, Jon Snow. Her eyes were 2 red stars, shining in the dark. At her throat, her ruby gleamed, a third eye glowing brighter than the others. Jon has seen ghosts' eyes blazing red the same way when they were caught, when the light caught them just right. Ghost, he called to me. The direwolf looked at him as if he were a stranger. So that's pretty neat little situation there between Melisandre and the direwolf Ghost. Now let's move on just a little bit further. This is again John 11. Ghost was the only protection Jon needed. The direwolf could sniff out foes, even those who hid enmity behind smiles. Then Ghost emerged from between 2 trees with Val beside him. They look like they belong together. Jiminy Christmas. So the Ghost has left us with some pretty intriguing. We've been talking about Val quite a bit, so nice to see her brought up there. I think that was on her return. Melisandre's rubies burn. So this is the Raven here from Ghost. Melisandre's rubies burns the more demanding her magic is. So the more that her, I guess in the text, and there it's a quote, the more that ruby is burning, the more demanding her magic is. Moments before this, she glamours herself into Ygritte just long enough for Jon to mistake her. She insists she can help Jon if he just takes her hand and embraces the power in the wall, his beast, himself, and the long dark shadow he casts. Claims that shadows are servants of the light. She's a shadow binder from Ashai, like Quaith. Maester Marwyn studied in Ashai. Mira Mazdur studied from Marwyn. She takes over Ghost with no problem whatsoever. Ghost has been absent, hunting/following Jon's commands quite a bit lately, but he was last seen at Castle Black, attacking men before the mutiny. Bran warged into Ghost. Jon absolutely can. Val has his confidence, and now Melisandre has no problem controlling him. When Jon tried to desert the Night's Watch, Ghost showed everyone where Jon was hiding. He alerted Jon when a White came to Castle Black for Jor. He led Jon to Dragonglass at Frostfangs, but he can't be working for R'hllor, can he? His eyes say R'hllor, but his countenance and his temperament scream old gods. His face is even compared to a werewood. Jon whispers, "Ghost," after being stabbed at the mutiny at Castle Black. I can't wait to see what he does in this, in the latest season of the show, as well as where we leave off in the books. I do believe Melisandre will bring Jon back to life in the books, but it will come at a terrible cost. A life for a life, like Mira Mazdur said. Sadly, I think Ghost will be the sacrifice for Jon, as Khal Drogo's horse was for him. Wow. That's something. So thoughts there, Sir Matt?
Yeah, this passage, man, it really kind of shows actually, the power that Melisandre does have, and where is she gonna go in kind of the future. I feel like the show is not doing nearly as good of a job as kind of showing just how important Melisandre is going to be going forward.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't even know what she's doing. We don't really know where she is. But in the books, I feel like she's kind of like, kind of a key, could be a key to just about everything, to be, completely honest.
Yeah. I wonder, is she deceiving Jon there by,
right.
Warmth calls to warmth. Her eyes were 2 red stars shining in the dark. At her throat, her ruby gleamed, a third eye glowing bright, brighter than the others. Now, here's something interesting. So we've often talked about the third eye, opening your third eye, and that being something between the Great Other and possibly R'hllor. Now, and also throw in the old gods too, but I don't really know. My whole theory has been that that Bran kind of has this. I mean, he has the wolf dreams. He can warg, and so on. But the opening of the third eye, which power is that coming from? Is that coming from the Great Other? Is that coming from the children and the old gods? Are they one and the same? And then right there when I heard that mention of a third eye glowing brighter than the others, makes me kind of think that she's a servant of R'hllor. Is that something between those two gods? We know that those are in the faith of R'hllor. It's like R'hllor is the one true God, and then there is his enemy, which is the Great Other.
The Great Other,
yeah. So you have those two. So it's sort of like that reference there makes me think that it's something that they both can kind of do, like on the power of the third eye. Is
I mean, are they
yeah,
are they kind of equal powers?
Yeah. So that just made me kind of wonder, because it's all about sight and being able to see more things, and R'hllor uses the flames, whereas what does the Great Other use? Is he using the werewoods? Is that like what he's? I don't know. Again, I always get the old gods and the other confused just because of Bloodraven, the children and stuff, and I still it's all murky to me. I don't really quite know, because R'hllor has his servants, and it seems like his servants and those folks who are over in Ashai, and Melisandre's a shadow binder, are servants there. So what are the Great Other's servants? Are they children? Are they, I don't know. I know that they worship the old gods. I get that. I know that they, that's what's said. They worship the old gods and stuff. There's more to it. I mean, and you have the others, who are his servants, right? But it's just sort of like, somehow, how does that opening your third eye kind of, which side of the line does that fall on? That's my question. The other thing here is we've got, let's see. Yeah, Ghost walking with Val, and the idea that he, the Ghost brings up the point that Ghost was the only protection Jon needed. This direwolf could sniff out foes, even those who hid enmity behind smiles. Yeah, I kind of think to be walking next to Val, there's something there. I've often thought that some of Val's characteristics, in wearing all of the whites and her skin color and even her eyes, possibly, they're kind of that grayish, color. But then her hair almost seems like it could be somewhat Targaryen related, it
does
in some way. So
and she could be, that there's a lot of the Rhaegar theories, actually Mance Rayder or whatever. I mean, that's another character. There's a secret behind we don't entirely know, which is Val.
Ghost, I love this freaking Raven, because it's got me thinking like, what Ghost himself is such a, he looks like a werewood, right? So he's got the he's white, albino with the eyes that are blood. Blood Raven is the same way. Mm-hmm. He is albino with red eyes, or a red eye, and then you have the rubies that are gleaming and glowing and seeing things in the flames. And Jon mentions his eyes are kind of burning, and so there's a connection to R'hllor. But then if the werewood network is something that is used by the Great Other, so it's just sort of like, Gur's so good at laying so many different we
don't know, maybe Ghost has always been kind of like a secret informant for the Great Other.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, that.
You never know.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is that like Melisandre is either using power to comfort and control Ghost, or they really are. Like there really is something that like that Ghost doesn't see her as an enemy, doesn't see her as someone who's going to harm or hurt Jon. And even at the end, I think what's very telling here is that like when he called to Ghost, the direwolf looked at him as if he were a stranger. Now that makes me think, that last line, you start to think like, okay, Ghost is, sees her as friend, but now when I see that he looked back and saw Jon as a stranger, it's almost as if Melisandre has put a spell on the direwolf.
Right.
It says that he had seen flames, or that later in the chapter, he had seen flames come from her fingers there. So that's, I don't know.
Right.
Is there some...
Yeah, I don't know.
Some trickery in that, scene there.
I still think back to like Bloodraven.
I don't know.
And if Bloodraven was the one that sent these wolves,
there's more you could kind of dig into. I think with that, I don't know.
Was that
how far we can take it, but
or was that a three-eyed raven thing? As we've kind of talked about.
Okay, let's look at like at the leading into Winds of Winter. Is Melisandre the one who raises him?
Where Bloodraven is kind of
that seems pretty straightforward, right?
Still himself, like slipping in and out of like consciousness.
Okay, so I think that's a really good point, because this we're talking about Ghost. We made the parallel to Bloodraven. Is it could it be that he sent those wolves down to aid them? You remember earlier we were talking about in oh my gosh, what
World of Ice and Fire Monday.
World of Ice and Fire. Yeah.
The Monday show how when we were learning about the Riverlands, that it was the children actually controlled ravens and wolves.
Yeah, gotcha. Did you just mention that, or is that
no? Just mention that.
Okay.
Right now,
yeah. Okay. Cool. So, yeah, because that's something that was stuck out to me. Is that the children kind of controlling the ravens and the wolves? So yeah. I don't know. There's that. But Melisandre can control wolves. So what's going on? It's like possibly. I almost have to go.
Seems like it.
Yeah, it's like I have to go do. Remember when I did the hierarchy between like wargs, skin changers, and even threw in like the difference between like wolf dreams, green dreams, and dragon dreams and stuff. Like we may have to do that with the different servants of these gods. The Great Other and R'hllor and so on. It's just
right. Something else I've been wondering about with Melisandre, the flames. Like they see things in the flames, and it seems like in the flames they see the future, right?
Yeah.
And when Bran uses the weirwoods, he sees into the past. Now, Bran does kind of have a green dream, like his first green dream, right? He kind of sees the mountain and like the future mountain that we're assuming. So I want, is that something else? Like does time play a part? Is it like, and also can they communicate with each other through the flames? Is that something that can be done?
Oh yeah, that's kind of neat. That would be interesting if you could, because I wonder if someone else is connected into the Weirwood network. Like if Bloodraven's where he's at, and you had those other children who had the red eyes and red and green eyes, if they could then also communicate with each other across long distances, I think perhaps they could.
Right.
And I think the same could be done with fire. But I like what you're saying. If one side had the ability to only influence the past, maybe they actually can go back and change things, but then the power that R'hllor has is the ability to see into the future and to see different pathways and see things that are coming. So that's what it seems like. It seems like every time Melisandre looks, she sees something in the future, right? Like she sees Jon, right? Possibly as Ozora High in the future. She sees kind of Bloodraven, or it seems like you can also kind of see things that are going on. Whereas the Weirwood network, as we like to call it, it does. It just seems like it's the past. Like Bran, he goes back and he sees all like the visions, possibly, Duncan the Tall, right? Like, and then all that stuff. And we know he goes to the Tower of Joy in the show and all that stuff. So, right, yeah. Melisandre even sees. I don't know if you said this. The what's her name? Oh gosh, it's not. It's one of the Karstarks coming to get aid from Jon. I used to think it was someone else, but it's not. It's one of I think it is a Karstark.
Yep. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So she sees things in the future. So I don't know, man. It's definitely we needed. I need to do the hierarchy. I need to break down. Find a bunch of references and things, because that threw me for a loop when I saw that the children, were calling down ravens and wolves to sort of attack. When they were allied there with the First Men, and they were attacking the 777. Andals, those knights that had attacked them. So, anyways, all right. Let's see here. What else we got here?
Well, let's see here. Is that it for the Ghost of Harrenhal? I believe it is. Trivia time.
Yeah.
Oh,
time
for trivia.
All right.
How many men are knighted for the Battle of the Blackwater? Kind of an interesting little thing here, and it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Kingsguard, man. It says that they knight, a lot of people to fight in this battle. So it's just
Yep.
quite interesting there. So, okay, I think we kind of have two more here. This is from our newly Sir Fluffhead of Gamehenge.
Yep.
Fair morning, my lords, was discussing the bittersweet ending with a friend, and he brought up a very realistic scenario that made me quite sad. Before I go on, this is strictly a show theory, as my bittersweet book ending theories are way more complex. As revealed in season 7, Jon is Aegon Targaryen the 6th. Possibly, if he is actually a king, he would then become Aegon the 6th.
Right.
Because there's been plenty of Aegons as well. Whereas in the books, Aegon is at Storm's End with Connington. Still not sure how legit potential fake Aegon is. Anyways, we are constantly teased in the show at Jon's parentage. We all know it, but he doesn't, and I do not think he ever will, is the one thing everyone wants him to, I know. But I think Bran probably creepily watch Jon and Dany get down on the boat and will decide it's best not to tell Jon, as it will distract him from the true focus, the Night King. It says, end of Raven 1. In addition to this, here are some more heavily cow dung. Here's some more heavy cow dung. I think Dany will be the big tragic death, maybe not as a sacrifice to create Lightbringer, but she will die, and thus this will divide the fans. As Sophie Turner stated, if you want to hear my bittersweet book ending, I think Gurr might go Lord of the Rings on us, in the sense that Westeros is completely destroyed with nothing left to rule over. Thus the survivors go into the east to find new land, only to discover that Slaver's Bay is in worse condition than Dany left it. I hate this theory, and it's my own, and had to share. Okay, so quite a few things. So quite a few things to pick apart here. So his first Raven is kind of more of like a statement, I guess, more than kind of a question here.
Yeah.
No, I actually, I don't know. Bran may tell him that he saw Jon and Dany get down on the boat. I think it would be kind of,
yeah.
You still want to have humor, right? In the show, like you're still gonna have kind of some funny moments, and one of the funniest moments of last season was when Sam was talking to Bran, and he's like, and Bran's like, "Oh, I'm the three-eyed raven," and Sam's like, "Oh, okay," like, it's just like this really like kind of funny, awkward moment, and I think that would be something else you could do, and it would just be another like funny, quick little moment, because the show does have humor, even though it is a really serious show. Like all of the Tormund Brienne stuff is hilarious.
Oh yeah,
it is like it is hilarious, and I really hope that Tormund does get with Brienne, because it would just be like perfect. But I don't know if it's gonna happen. Yeah. I think Tormund is a super expendable character.
Well, even if he gets with her and then dies,
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, because everyone still wants her to get with Jaime. Yeah, I think that would also be good, but I'm more on the Tormund. I'm a Team Tormund. Okay, are you in Team Tormund?
Yeah.
Are you Team Tormund or Team Jaime? We should do a poll.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. Who should Brienne get with, Team Tormund or Team Jaime? There we go. Yeah, we need to do a poll.
Oh gosh, or Lady Stoneheart. Back to Lady Stoneheart. Just kidding. All right. Yeah. Let's see here. My thought. I like his the comment about the sort of that Lord of the Rings ending. That things are completely destroyed and they have to kind of go. And that would be nuts. Like it's almost like it turns into more of a. Maybe there's only a few places that are that you can inhabit down in Dorne or whatever, but most of it's been like destroyed, or it's going to take years to recover, and so they have to migrate back east. Because they came. West, across the land bridge and the Arm of Dorne there, and then have to go back. That would be nuts. I think that would be absolutely crazy.
Right.
So
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Gurr's going to go that crazy. I think still everything's going to be.
I think it's
happening in the
I think it's neat
Kingdoms.
because I've never heard anybody say that. I've never.
That is true. Yeah.
Anyone bring that up. So I think that's different from what we have heard. The comment that Dany's going to die and that it's not going to be as a sacrifice to create Lightbringer. Yeah, I don't know. Do you really see them plunging a sword into someone and someone else letting them, you know, do that?
I don't know.
I think if it happens by accident. And it's like they unintentionally fulfill a prophecy that they don't even know about.
Right.
I think it could be something like that. But yeah. Now actually the statement that was mentioned up here earlier by Sir Fluffhead. Let's see. The idea that okay. So with Aegon, Jon is Aegon Targaryen, whereas in the books Aegon is at Storm's End with Connington. Let's see here. A realistic scenario which made me quite sad okay, let's see. Anyways, we were constantly teased in the show at Jon's parentage. We all know it, but he doesn't. And so that was the Bran comment. I thought he mentioned more about Aegon and young Griff there, and whether they were the same. I thought that's
right.
That's what I said earlier. So I thought I had heard you say that, but reading this again, no, it's not what he's saying. Because to me, I think they've taken those two characters and sort of interwoven them to make them the same. So, all right, cool. I think that's it then. I think we've answered everything from that one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. We have one last one here.
Okay.
This is pretty cool. Lord Phantom, the Tranquil Havoc. This is from Instagram. What could happen if one of the stone men blew Dragonbinder? Valyria had other dragon-riding houses beside the Targaryens. Because the horn burns the user, I believe this could turn them into dragons, similar to the way Dany's burned her petrified, basically stone eggs.
What? Wow. So one of the stone men would blow Dragonbinder. That's interesting. I was actually starting to think that the stone men could then survive the blowing of
I think they
Dragonbinder.
could. Yeah, I think that maybe they could. Maybe that's the route they go.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought Lord Phantom was trying to say
and there is a could be soon stone man with Connington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's true. Yeah, sometimes I forget that he contracted that.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Valyria had other dragon
and maybe
besides.
that could be kind of cool. Maybe like Daenerys shows up, right? And the horn shows up as well, and he blows the horn thinking we can control the dragons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we could find out.
Well, and what he's talking about here is that the idea that there were other that's in two different parts. So you remember when the that's sort of the like the isn't that the Rhoynar who helped to kind of contract that what's it actually called? What is the name? I just forgot it. The disease. Anyways, it's would they actually turn into dragons though? You know what I'm saying? That's the part I'm struggling with. I'm trying to think of whether they would turn into dragons, or would they be more like, because they could withstand blowing the Dragonbinder, maybe they then can bind dragons to themselves, just because if they had Targaryen, if some of them are unless they lived super long, and that this is more that they're men who go into that area, get that sickness, and then Greyscale is what it's called, right?
Greyscale, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I don't know, man. Greyscale. Now think about that too. It's kind of scaly. Yeah. I don't know. That's a good thought. I haven't given that disease. I know that it's difficult to heal. We actually see Sam attempt it though, doesn't he? Basically, if you can take the pain, he can kind of remove it from your body. You're gonna be super scarred and stuff, but he, is able to cut that off of at least in the show, Jorah Mormont. So Connington has a chance. Do you think Connington will survive? That's my question.
I don't know. I think John Connington is a guy who I see as quite expendable.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So then, what happens to Jorah Mormont how does he, get back into? And I know in the show he's contracted that Greyscale, and so he's been sent away. Is that going to happen in the books?
I don't know.
Does he?
I don't know if we're. I think
Does he
I don't.
come
I don't think
back?
they're gonna have two Greyscale.
No, that's not what I mean.
Okay.
How does she send him away, or why would she send him away after he proves himself, or does she? You know what I'm saying? Like, would there be any need to?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know. Yeah.
Because she's still upset with him,
Right.
you know, for betraying her and things. And even though he kind of proves himself and he goes in, well, I mean, yeah. So he goes in with what's his face, and they sneak in and free the city. But then he gets in the books, he's with Tyrion. You know, he's in the slave pits fighting and stuff. So
Right.
is that how he earns his way back into? I mean, that's the same in the book, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure, isn't it? Isn't that how he and
in the show he first comes back when Dany is about to be attacked, right? And then Dany's about to be attacked by like I think the Sons of the Harpy, and like he is there. Yeah, he's at the pits, and he kind of saves her, and then Drogon comes down, and she ends up like getting on him and flying off, and then that's where she ends up in the Khalasar by herself, right? And that's where she and then Drogon flies off, and she's approached by the Khalasar. She's thrown into the, oh god, I'm blanking on it now, where they take all the wives.
Oh, Vaes Dothrak.
Yeah, Vaes Dothrak, and then she's thrown in there, and then she ends up burning it to the ground, and then like everyone sees her because she like comes out of it alive, and that's how she gets her Khalasar. That's how she gets her own Khalasar. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then Jorah Mormont is off with Daario Naharis, and I can't remember where she does send him to go get. She ends up. I think they end up meeting back up, and she says, like, you know, go get healed and then find me again, and he does.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I guess I was just in the books. You know, it's like as he's there standing, she's right now in the books like lost. You know, out with Drogon,
Right.
but like is you know, how does he get back in her good graces? Is it because he brings back Tyrion, I guess? I mean, you know, does he have to do more for her?
Right.
Prove himself more to get back in her services, you know, because he continues to kind of worship her and brings back a Lannister to try to, like, prove himself, you know, and things. I don't know. You know, it's just, even though he gets caught and he gets, you know, sold into, like, slavery there, and which is ironic, right? And he's fighting, I think because he wants to be fighting in front of her. So, yeah. Anyways, I don't know. It's we'll learn more, I guess, in Winds of Winter, and unless they do something super crazy. Well, no, they couldn't do that. Winds has to include all these different characters. So, but
Yeah.
All right, man. Any other Ravens? Think we're good?
Nope. That is it. That is it for this week. So, all right, guys. Thanks for listening. And in the words of House Tallheart, proud and free.